of warlike Sparta. Fate destined them for godlike greatness.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different on the channel, which I think I did a long time ago when the channel was a little smaller. And now it just makes sense because 2024 is shaping up to be a really great year for ARPGs, which you can probably tell is my favorite genre. So we're going to discuss 5 of the top ARPGs on the market right now, or soon to be. In particular, there's one that we got an update on, I think it was like a week ago or a few days ago. And definitely there's stuff going to Gamescom that's going to be in August 2024 that I'm super excited about. Again, one in particular, if you looked at the thumbnail, you might have an idea of what that game might be. It's one of my all-time favorite games because when I was a broke uni student, I played the first one and it got me out of a lot of strife. So just out of this too, I did consider putting Diablo 4's expansion onto the list, but I don't know. I'm unsure of what to expect from Blizzard on that one, just based on past experiences and the number of players that did get burnt with that game. I do feel like there's a pretty strong player base that does enjoy it, and it is on the upwards curve in a positive direction, but until we get some proper details about the new Diablo 4 expansion, I'm not confident to put it on one of these lists just yet. So anyway, sit back, relax, and let's talk ARPGs, and let's get into the video. Grimdawn, the Fangs of Asterkarn. So for anyone who hasn't played Grimdawn, Grimdawn is an ARPG developed by Crate Entertainment and was released all the way back in 2016. So it's been around for a little while. The game takes place in a gritty world of Karn. Players choose from multiple classes such as a soldier, demolitionist, occultist, and more, each with their own unique abilities and playstyles like any other ARPG. And also the big advantage of Grimdawn is that you have the ability to dual class within the character custom or the classing system, which allows you to mix and match joint classes, which allows you to basically do unique combinations and whatnot. So it makes for a really interesting game experience. And this mechanic was taken from the original Titan Quest many years ago, which is what the engine that Grimdawn was founded on. The other really cool thing about Grimdawn is you can use guns with shields, twin gun wielding, like it's got all this sort of musket steampunk dark turn of the century sort of themology, and it's really cool. It's just really interesting. You get swords, shields, all that sort of stuff as well. So you can do the old sword and board, or you could have like a spellcaster with guns. It's good. It's got necromancer classes, druidic classes, and things like that. So overall, it's got everything you expect from an ARPG. Now, so since last year, there was the announcement of this new expansion, which is set to release around late 2024. Which is obviously called the Fangs of Asterkarn, and we'll see players journey to the frozen wilderness of Asterkarn, which is a new location in the world, where they will battle against the Kern and discover a dark legacy. The expansion will also add a new Ascendant mode, which will offer greater challenges. This could be like a Challenge Rift mode, but we're not too sure yet, as well as a new shape-shifting Berserker Mastery, aka the Druid out of Path of Exile 2 and Diablo 4. And the expansion will also build upon the existing Crucible DLC, and many other new items and different things will be added as well. And I should add, like, this has only had like 2 major expansions in the past, and they haven't had an expansion for some time, and this is pretty big. But it also comes off the back of what came out earlier this year, which was patch 1.2. So if anyone wanted to have a look at the game, it's actually had a fair few changes that have come out in 2024, and I feel like the developers are making this somewhat competitive in line with Path of Exile 2, Path of Exile, Diablo 4, everything else coming out. But some of the additions to the game, funnily enough, were dodge roll mechanics were added to the game, a lot more improvement around the leveling experience and significantly making it more rewarding over time. Better paced game pacing to the end game. So one of the biggest criticisms was it sort of felt like the end game was a bit lackluster in Grimdawn, but they've sort of improved that over time. And the game difficulty system was significantly overhauled, and now you can start at any difficulty as long as it's been unlocked, and then progress at your own pace based on how hard you want the game to be for you. Okay, so the second game on this list is one that I'm super keen for, and I've been sitting around for the last couple of years since they first announced the launch trailer or the cinematic launch trailer, or cinematic trailer, I should add. And what we can see in the thumbnail is taken from some of the footage that was, or some of the clips that have been, when I say clips, screenshots of the game so far that have been released on Steam. But it's Titan Quest 2, and this is very much a return to a little bit of glory for THQ Nordic, which was formerly known as THQ Games. If you've been gaming as long as I have, THQ was once upon a time absolutely enormous, and were also the studios behind the original Space Marine games and a lot of the Dawn of War series. So they were a really good studio. They sort of went bust, and then they were purchased or bought out by another company and rebranded into THQ Nordic, which has ever since been releasing consistent releases of expansions for the original Titan Quest, and finally we're going to get Titan Quest 2. So the story for TQ2 sets out that a goddess by the name of Nemesis, which is the goddess of retribution in Greek mythology, though don't quote me on that, haven't fully fact-checked that one, is out of control and on a rampage across the ancient Greek world. Now, TQ1 spanned across like Chinese mythology, it spanned across Viking mythology and everything else in between. So it wouldn't be surprising if this was the case with this game, but they may only just focus on Greek mythology, which I'm okay with, by the way. That was how TQ1 was set out as well. Now she is corrupting the threads of fate and punishing all of those who oppose her. And TQ will put you on the side of other gods wishing to destroy her and her rampage. So far what we've got details about on the Steam page is some news updates about level design and possibly having an open world environment like Diablo 4, though I don't know if that's the greatest design idea, but it could be good. They've also provided information about beast and enemy designs, and also world design and its themes of Greek mythology, as well as releasing some information about the Spartan race and culture and things like that. But the biggest and best thing that I learned just today, actually, was that they are going to have THQ Nordic provide a lineup of games at Gamescom in August in 2024. One of those games will, in fact, be TQ2. So I have a feeling that this game may actually be getting an announcement of a release date, and obviously some gameplay trailers would be really nice for this, and I'll be covering this on this channel because I'm super excited for this game. And so I reckon, or I have a feeling, that they may be making a play against Path of Exile 2 and the new Diablo expansion to get back into the market and basically kick those games off their mantles, or give them at least a run for their money. And I reckon that by Christmas this year, we're going to be having an absolute banger of a time trying to pick which ARPG we want to specialize in. Obviously, PoE 2 is where it's going to be for me, but I'm going to be really struggling to split my time between PoE 1, PoE 2, and if TQ2 gets announced, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just not going to sleep anymore. Anyway, that's the second game on the list. Super exciting, and yeah, hopefully it's going to be a really great game. Okay, so the third game on this list is inevitably going to be Last Epoch, in particular patch 1.1, which is due out early July at this stage. To be more precise, 9th of July is when we've been told. So this is the Harbingers of Ruin expansion, aka Cycle. And for anyone who doesn't know what Last Epoch is, it's an action RPG, obviously, game that takes place in the world of an on the brink of destruction called E-Terra. Players control a character who can manipulate time and prevent really bad events from happening that will probably destroy the world. Now, it has a pretty robust character creation, or I shouldn't say creation system, but character skilling system, and it's very, very new player friendly. It's probably one of the best scaled and balanced games around that. And as far as the endgame goes, it stems into what's called the Monolith and Corruption system, which is not too bad. Out of the major ARPGs that are out there, it's pretty good. It's also got a devout following of creators behind it that make builds for it, and obviously had a very large player count on the 1.0 launch earlier this year. So it's not a bad game. Now, there are criticisms that I've seen definitely in the comments of my previous video I did the other day around the fact that the sort of gameplay and the mechanisms or mechanics feel a little bit floaty and not as hard hitting, but I have a feeling that they'll improve that over time. That's just something that's going to come as the game develops further on. Now, the 1.1 expansion, which is set to come out 9th of July, as I noted, we'll end up getting a few additional inclusions into the game, such as, and it's a cycle update, not a game launch, and that's generally how these ARPGs work for anyone who's not used to this stuff. So basically they're adding in the dodge roll. Funnily enough, every ARPG is getting dodge roll these days. All new pinnacle bosses and nemesis encounters as well, and hopefully we should see a bunch of balance and patch changes, which is pretty ordinary for most ARPGs that tend to balance and patch these days. But I feel like if you're looking for like currently the top 3 contenders for the top dog spot is obviously the Path of Exile series being number 1. And then Diablo 4 and Last Epoch sort of sit in that same rung as, if we look at it as A-grade ARPGs, as opposed to things like Victor, Vran, and Van Helsing and those games, which are really like more budget ARPGs. These sorts of games are the high-octane games as a service models, and they're pretty good. They're not just pretty good, they're exceptionally good. But I am super keen for this, and I will be playing it on the 9th of July. So fingers crossed it's a good release, and we hopefully should get more information about this in the coming weeks. But this would be number 3 on my list to look out for. If you haven't played it, it's worth giving a shot. Okay, so the 4th game on this list is inevitably going to be Path of Exile 1. In particular, we'll be waiting on the 3.25 League launch, which hopefully will rock up about mid-July to end July or so, which conveniently is very close to the Last Epoch launch. But so basically, for anyone who hasn't played Path of Exile, this is one of the most robust ARPGs that exists on the market to date. It's been around for about 11 years. It's had like 40 plus leagues, and there's tons of content on it, including tons on my channel. If you're looking for something around Path of Exile, you will find it on my channel. And I also have a new series called Raid Class 101 that I'm working on for new players. But basically, it has hundreds of skills within the game, infinite hours of scalability and gameplay, tons of different endgame mechanics. The most notable being the mapping mechanic that exists in Path of Exile is probably one of the best in any ARPG. And basically, you're a character referred to as the Exile, which washes up on the shores of Rayclast, and then you have 10 acts to play through initially as you level up to then take down the final boss, which is Kitava, which is basically Diablo out of the Diablo 3 game or any other game equivalent. And yeah, it's just overall a really great game. Well developed, has a very, very robust community as well as a huge content creator background. And the developers are exceptionally great developers. And in fact, Path of Exile 2 comes out hopefully later this year in beta, and we'll see where that goes. But if you're also sitting around waiting for Path of Exile 2, this is a great time to get into Path of Exile 1 and start learning a little bit about the game and how it works. A lot of the mechanics are changing between the two games, but definitely the foundation is there in Path of Exile 1, but you won't be disappointed. You'll get tons of hours out of it. I think the biggest issue with PoE 1 tends to be how daunting it is for new players, but you just have to do a little bit of research and you'll be okay. Now, as far as the expansion or the league for 3.25, we have absolutely no idea. We never know until like a few weeks or a week before the league actually gets announced or the release or whatnot. So we're all sort of sitting back wondering what it could possibly be. But fingers crossed, it's a huge improvement on the last league, which didn't go down so well with the community. And I trust that GGG will turn it around and we'll have a great league for next league. But anyway, this is the 4th one worth checking out. If you haven't played Path of Exile, definitely download it. It's free to play and give it a go. Okay, so the number 1 spot or the final game on this list of ARPGs to look out for is probably going to be the best one of them all, and it is Path of Exile 2, which is the highly anticipated sequel to the Path of Exile 1 game, which was number 4 on this list. Funnily enough, will be running alongside Path of Exile 1 as its second entry and as a standalone game, hopefully from November onwards when it hits beta. This is also set in the dark and gritty world of Rayclast 30 years in the future, where players must explore all the vast new landscapes, battle hordes of enemies, and you will be able to play a slew of new skills and support gems. And it will still include the same mechanics from Path of Exile 1 with definitely a lot of improvements game on game, as well as a lot of graphical improvements. And as you can see in the gameplay footage, it looks absolutely like quadruple A grade. And so, yeah, there's also a large number of gameplay mechanical changes and a lot of player experience changes that we should encounter. And fingers crossed this game will be much more new player friendly moving forwards as well. So some of the features that we're also already aware of is it will include a gold trading currency. It'll have a auto trade auction house. So you'll be able to carry your microtransactions forward from Path of Exile 1. It'll be cross-platform enabled as well, so cross-play you'll be able to play. It has about 100 unique bosses initially in the game, which will also be translated into the mapping system with 1,500 passive skill points. That will probably change before the game comes out, with 36 different ascendancy classes, of which we've only seen a few of so far, the Witch being really cool, and hundreds of skill and support gem options that I would assume will continually keep changing until beta comes out. This game also has 2-player couch co-op, and you'll be able to play that co-op mode with multiplayer as well, and advanced twin stick controller support, which can be hot switched as well, so you can play between keyboard or twin stick ARPG configurations, which is really awesome and definitely something that hasn't been done a lot with ARPGs. Basically, the developers are going for the greatest ARPG game ever made, and I think they may be able to pull it off at this stage. It's looking pretty convincing, and obviously they're taking a lot of feedback from the community as well, so they're making a game that everybody wants to play, and I can't see why this wouldn't stand above every single ARPG as maybe the greatest ARPG ever made, but we'll see in November when hopefully the beta drops then. Okay, so overall, there's some pretty good stuff to look forwards to before the end of 2024. Definitely a lot of stuff to do and a lot of games coming out. And in between that, Elden Ring, I think, came out today, the expansion, which is going to go off like nothing else, which is another great action ARPG, hack and slash. But in this list, we're particularly focused on isometric games, so the Diablos and the Path of Exiles, as opposed to stuff like Elden Ring, which is sort of a different type of game unto itself. Anyway, if you like this type of video, don't forget to like and sub to the channel. Don't forget to follow the Twitch. And until next time, I'll see you guys later, and have a good one.